bonsai is not a real popular hobby because people think they will kill the tree. Well, with this, you never do. Hi, I'm miltonchang of Bonsaiheirloom. Today, I want to address the watering question again. Last week, we talked about the soil mix. And the point I made is that there's no right soil mix so long as you can keep the soil moist. So any mix works almost, but you got to combine that with your watering technique. So today, after the talk, I realized that with these shallow pots, there were a lot of questions about how do I keep my trees moist and not dry out. And I would say with such shallow bonsai pots, it's almost impossible. You cannot keep your trees alive in these shallow pots. And so what do? Well, in the past, I say water a lot, keep it in the shade and water multiple times a day, mist if necessary during hot summer days. Well, a lot of that is a little bit impractical, so tongue-in-cheek, I call it a Rube Goldberg Method of keeping your bonsai alive. And what I mean is really very simple. You can keep these trees infinitely alive, infinitely easy to keep them alive. And in fact, if you want to go on vacation, you can just wrap up the tree and let it sit for a week or two, and we'll experiment with that. In fact, I will urge you to do the following. You would take a bonsai, soak it in a tub really well before you go on vacation, and you wrap it in plastic bags, garbage bags, and wrap it all around the trunk and keep the soil in the bag, and see if it will last a week, it'll last 2 weeks, and it'll be really great if you can document the temperature for the next 14 days. So when you come back to see if your tree is still alive, you can use a very cheap, inexpensive tree if you like, or just a sapling, or just no tree. Just wrap it up and see if the soil remains moist when you come back 2 weeks from now. So with that in mind, then, let me just show you these 4 trees of different sizes. These 3 are all very shallow pots. And this one is deeper, but it's also very small. So what do? Very simple what you can do today. And that will keep your tree alive and trouble-free. So let me show you. The term Rube Goldberg technique of doing things is basically understand how the sequential event, the causality of one thing you do, what it would do to the other one to create an end result. So in this case, for this little bonsai, so here is a food takeout tray. If you put your bonsai in here, your shohin or mame bonsai in here, and when you water it, you water to this level, a little bit above the drainage hole, so the water will suck up through the drainage hole to keep them moist. So you water from the top, you overflow a little bit so that the water covers, let's say, half an inch above the drain hole, and then you let it be. And some days you water a little bit more, some days you water a little less. It will sit in the water for a couple of days, but it dries out, so it will not root rot because it will dry out. And this is a baking tray, aluminum tray, and it doesn't quite fit the size of this bonsai, so I just jammed it in. Right, so then I water it again to about here, and it will drain out. You can see the water, the soil is very, very supple. This tree, I bought it from the curator of the Huntington Library Bonsai Museum probably 15 years ago, and I really had a hard time with it. It was straight up, and I felt it was very crowded. I finally tilted it. Now it doesn't look as crowded, and I put it in the shallow pot. And it was always very sparse because this always dried out. There's no way I can keep this thing moist. But after the video a couple of days ago, I decided to put a pen underneath of it. So what do I use for such a big pot? Well, here's one. And this is a cover I bought from Costco. It's about $8 or $9 for a big storage bin, and I use the storage bin for growing pot, and use the storage bin for the bottom of this bonsai. So let me put it in. You can see it fits perfectly. And, you know, and the water level is just below the drainage holes. So in fact, this side is in the shade, and it's quite supple. And the other side is in the sun, and it's almost rock solid. But still, I can keep it alive, and I'll probably, because I want to use this as a show tree for this show that's coming out in about 3 weeks, that I'll probably keep some wet newspaper and wet towel on top of it to keep the sun away. And I bet you the moss will turn green in 3-4 weeks. I just did that about 3 weeks ago, and it's already seeing an effect of how the tree is greening up. Now finally, here's a really large pot. What do I do with this one? There's no way I can keep the soil moist and never dry out. It will at some point, I miss something, and it will dry out and I'll kill the tree. So with that in mind, I will do the following. I cut up some wood pieces, and I use that even temporary without even nailing them together to make it into a temporary basin, so to speak. Now what I'll do is to put a plastic garbage bag on top of this. Then I have basically a trough, a basin to set this bonsai in. This tree will never be able to dry out because there's water in reserve for the soil to gradually soak up the water and keep it moist. And you will never drown the tree because occasionally you let it dry out, or when the water recedes below the water line or the pot hole. So you're safe. So now with this little simple scheme, which I figured out by making my presentation to you, I figured out that's a easy way for us to keep our tree alive without killing it. Because bonsai is not a real popular hobby because people think they will kill the tree. Well, with this, you never do. This tree, I struggled with it I got it maybe 30, 40 years ago, one of my early trees, and the trunk was probably no bigger than this, but it was fairly tall, and it's grown, but I struggle with it to keep it alive. And you can see it's a lot of dead branches. It's still struggling, but I bet you next year there will be no dead branches because with this watering technique, the tree will always be moist. The roots will never be dried out, so it will always have a lot of fibrous roots. So with that in mind, then, keep in mind any soil will work almost, but I recommend the basic soil that I recommended, or just substitute topsoil, a little bit decomposed topsoil to go with the peat moss and perlite, and use this method for your shallow pots, and you'll be home safe. And I use the term Rube Goldberg because that's like a sequence in reverse. That means the pot will dry out, the tree will die, and you reverse the steps to save the tree. So with that in mind, I hope you like my tongue-in-cheek video, at least the title of the video, and as a way of keeping your tree, your tree easier to maintain. So with that in mind, then, thank you very much for watching. And please click like, I appreciate that, and subscribe to our channel. So with that in mind, then, thank you very much. See you next week.